So we are live.
We are live. Hey, Drew, how's it going?
Good, Nathan. Good. How's it going with you?
Yeah, really good. I'm excited to jump into this topic. I think it's going to be a really good conversation.
Of course, man. And thank you so much for making time for it on your Wednesday morning. I'm assuming it's a very busy middle of the week, I'm more than excited to talk about not just DORA but you know developer productivity overall. And as I've been telling all my friends and on my LinkedIn posts as well, this for me is more of a kind of an equivalent to a pair programming hack together kind of session where
Yeah.
we'll be pulling off things live, doing it from scratch. There's always a nail biting moment of, oh, it might work, it might not work. And yeah, two great pieces of software. One Google Cloud Workstation, and the other is with a little bias, middleware open source. So I'm pretty excited to see how it goes.
Yeah, I'm excited as well. It's always fun to do things live. Like you said, you never know what's going to happen. You know what you expect and hope that that's what actually comes through. So yeah, I'm really excited about it. But hey, let's start maybe by talking a little bit about DORA. You know of DORA, and you've been a very active member in the community, the DORA community. How did you come across DORA the first time? Do you remember that?
Oh yeah, I mean, so a little background about me. So I used to be a senior engineering manager. I was working with a company called MERS, and during my stint at MERS, we were expanding quite rapidly. And at that time, we were struggling with our efficiency overall, and the teams were going on a delay. And that really intrigued my interest in, like, how can I make my teams efficient, right? It's a 250 member team, and there has to be a method to the madness. And at that time, I started researching about how to analyze developer productivity, what are the right ways, how do the best companies do engineering excellence, and that's how I came across DORA. And of course, Nicole's video about DORA. Then I read through the book, and I was just I stumbled across the DORA community, and since then I think that is one of the best communities I've been a part of. I've learned so much, and of course, participated in it. The quality of conversations is amazing. It's very deep. There are no crap conversations happening, and I think for me, the exposure of a different side of world, where people also talk about empathy when they're considering productivity, or they're talking about how to do team topology, and our community set up. What are we calling them? Metric Mondays? Yeah,
Metric
the
Mondays,
community
yeah.
meetups, and so everything has been wonderful. And then slowly, as I stepped on to this journey of founding Middleware and into the world of developer productivity, uh, it I've been a contributor as well, a part of the community, and now we are talking. We have been talking for a couple of months, and now I'm very excited to share the stage with you.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, for myself, by way of introduction, for those that don't know me, hi, I'm Nathen Harvey, and I lead up DORA at Google Cloud. So, if you've not heard of DORA, it's a research program where we've been helping teams understand how to get better at delivering and operating software. And this research program has been it's been running for over a decade now. It's kind of hard to believe, and it's really been pretty impactful on the industry, frankly. You mentioned Nicole's book. That's Dr. Nicole Forsgren. She wrote a book called Accelerate, which summarizes the first few years of the research. She wrote that together with Jez Humble and Gene Kim. So if you've not had a chance to read that, I would definitely recommend it. And then in just a moment here, we'll head over to Dora.dev and we'll look a little bit more about DORA. But if you're watching now, I would encourage you also to join the DORA community. I think that this is, as Dhruv mentioned, it's a great place where we have conversations about, and it's conversations with people around the world, both practitioners and leaders and researchers, trying to figure out how do we improve developer productivity with a strong focus on the well-being of our developers and sort of the culture, and making sure that we're getting that right, or at least making it a little bit better every day. Yeah. So speaking of Dora.dev, why don't we jump over to Dora.dev, Dhruv? Let's see. I think I can share my screen here. There we go.
Of course,
Perfect.
yes,
Perfect.
and
All right.
we are right there.
All
I'll,
right.
I'll
So,
before we
yeah.
jump in there, maybe I'll also give a little introduction to people who
Yeah.
do not
Perfect.
know me. Yeah, so my name is Dhruv Agarwal. I am co-founder and CEO of a company called Middleware. We are a software engineering productivity intelligence company. We help engineering teams reduce their time to market by helping them remove the bottlenecks in their processes. Um, we leverage signal frameworks like DORA, being one of our favorite frameworks, and some other frameworks that we'll also talk towards the end of this session to help companies recognize and reduce the bottlenecks in their journey from ideation to product delivery. Before this, I was a senior engineering manager at a company called Merce, was based out of Copenhagen, and before that, many more startups. And yeah, so in my journey, I realized that when I was a builder, I hated going to a lot of meetings and justifying what I'm doing and what I'm not. So I loved building when I was a builder. But as soon as I became a manager, I realized that I have no visibility to where my team is getting stuck, and that led me to going to every meeting and pulling people into different meetings to understand what's happening so that I can enable them. Whereas I could not focus so much on strategic or the technical part. So now we at Middleware we are trying to take the builders back to the happy building time and the leaders to leading strategically and technically. So yeah, that's a bit about me, and we can resume to Dora.dev now.
Oh, yeah, awesome. Thanks for that, Drew. So DORA is, as this tagline says right here, DORA is really about helping teams get better at getting better. It's a journey of continuous improvement. Now, many people know DORA very well for the 4 key metrics of software delivery performance. And in fact, if I hop over here to the research tab, you'll see those software delivery performance metrics listed out there. You can learn more about them in this guide here about the software delivery metrics. But you can also sort of quickly assess your team. How are you doing with those software delivery metrics using DORA's quick check? I'll just walk through this very, very quickly here. So, and as a way to help recap some of those metrics if you're unfamiliar with them. So when we think about these metrics, we're always thinking about an application or service, the primary one that you work on. And we ask questions, first 2 questions about throughput. How is change moving through that system? And we ask about the lead time for changes. So from the time code is committed until that code lands in production. And then the deployment frequency. How frequently are you pushing changes out to production? Next up, we have 2 metrics on stability. So we had throughput. We also want to make sure that we're making stable changes to our environment. So the first one is the change fail percentage, or what I like to call the expletive rate, because this is what happens when you push a change to production and you or someone around you shouts out an expletive. Maybe we shouldn't have pushed that, or maybe we need to pull it back or push forward a hot fix, right? So how frequently, like what percentage does that happen? And then we recognize that it's going to happen, right? It's not if there is a failure, it's when, because no system is 100% perfect. We should not expect them to be. So when those failures do happen, how long does it take to recover and get your system back to working? Now, taken together, these 4 metrics can be used to measure any type of software or technology that you're delivering, whether it's a mobile application, a new LLM, a mainframe application, who knows, anything really. And by using these 4 measures, you really get a good sense of the outcome of that software delivery process and sort of how that engineering works. And you can then compare yourself and sort of set a baseline number relative to other people that have participated in this research study. And we'll come back to a couple of things around how do you improve those numbers over time here in just a bit. But the quick check is just one way in which you can gather those numbers. But as you see, this was a form that I filled out, and it definitely reflects my lived experience. Well, I mean, I just made up the answers just now, but when you fill it out, you can have it reflect your lived experience. And I think a really great way to do that is to bring your team together and kind of talk through that to make sure that you agree. But oftentimes we hear, well, yes, but that was a questionnaire. We have data in our systems. So can't we just pull the data from our systems and put together a dashboard? And in fact, over here on Dora.dev, I'm just going to scroll down to the bottom and click on this resources link. There are a number of source available tools, open source and otherwise, that allow you to do just that. And of course, middleware is one of them. And so I'm really excited to kind of dig into middleware today. So Drew, I know that this is open source here. So give us a little highlight, a little overview of this before I start trying to build it.
Oh, of course. I mean, so middleware sits on top of, right now we are supporting Git. So it sits on top of your GitHub or any other code management tool you're using. And it's built so that when any company or any engineering organization is looking to start their journey with engineering metrics, DORA comes as the first framework to optimize your delivery. So we wanted to give back to the community by making it very easy to get started. What we have done is we have made just a plug and play tool where you can plug it in, just to do a Docker pull. If you can scroll a bit down, very clear instructions, you can just do a Docker pull. And once it's set up, which we'll see hands-on right now as well. So once it's set up, you just put your GitHub token, configure whatever repositories you want to focus on, and boom, you have your 4 keys that Nathan just talked about, all set in your system. And not just that, we also give the score the same way Dora.dev gives as a quick check. So you don't need to even fill the answers manually. We'll give you the score as well as give you a benchmark of what the last survey's average score was. So yeah, it's pretty cool. Gets you started very easily, very quickly, and it's available on the link that we can also mention in the comments. So yeah, over to you, Nathan.
Awesome. Well, let's, I mean, I love playing with new technology, and it looks like it's easy to set up. Let's go ahead and test that out. So I'm actually going to jump over to Google Cloud because of course that's where I work. So I use Google Cloud all the time, and I'm going to use a particular feature of Google Cloud called Google Cloud Workstations. Let me just click start, and I'll tell you a little bit more about workstations while my workstation is doing just that, booting up. So Google Cloud Workstations is a great way for you to create a custom development environment for each application that you might have across your team. The entirety of this workstation will live in the cloud. So we have all of the advantages that cloud gives us in terms of elasticity, in terms of how much horsepower do we need for this particular developer workstation, and so forth. I can connect from my local, say VS Code, I could connect directly into this. And the interesting thing about workstations, or one of the interesting things. So first, just a quick tour here. So we have clusters. So you can set up a number of different workstation clusters, have a number of different workstation configurations. So configurations are really interesting because you can think about setting up a configuration for each of the different applications that you have within your organization, or each of the different application stacks. And then each developer you can deploy workstations for. So as a developer, if I'm moving from one team to the next, I don't have to worry about what's all of the setup and things that I need to be aware of for this new application that I'm joining. I can just get a workstation out of the box. And then as someone that's responsible for managing that infrastructure, the beautiful thing is if we need to update a package or something like that, once the workstation reboots, it gets that brand new configuration. So there's a lot of real strong power in this. I don't have to clutter my local machine with an internet connection. I can do all of the development work that I like. And as you can see, it takes just a little bit to launch a workstation. Let's go ahead and fire it up here and see what we get. So I'm using just the baseline Google Cloud Workstation, and you'll see this gets Code OSS, which is essentially Visual Studio Code. It's right here available to me in a browser, and I have all of the things that I would typically want. Yeah, it's just magical. So, all right. So if we look back at middleware, we start off here with some, let's create a Docker volume and get Docker pulled down into this workstation. So let me just jump over here. And then, just using my standard Visual Studio Code, I'm just going to go ahead and launch a new terminal. Terminal. Let's see. I don't know. I can never find it in the list, but I always remember the shortcut. So there, I've just used the keyboard shortcut. It's always easier for me.
It's the muscle memory. It's always the muscle memory.
Exactly. That muscle memory is so important. Okay, so I copied that from your README there. Let's just paste it in here and let that fire off. All right. So of course, Docker comes installed by default. So this is already ready to go for me pretty easily. And it's just firing up a bunch of services, it looks like, here in the background. All right.
Yeah.
Wow. Looks like that's maybe it, huh? Pretty close
Yeah.
to
Wow.
done.
Yeah.
All right. That's awesome. Okay.
I mean, I've set it up on my local as well, but this was super slick.
It's pretty fast, right? Yeah. Okay. So I'm just going to jump back over here because the other thing I can do with this cloud workstation is I can connect to it on via the web on any port. And if I recall correctly, this will be running on 3333. Is that right, Drew?
Yes.
Yeah. All right, great. And so it gives me a URL. Probably anyone could go to that URL. I'm just going to open it up in a new window here.
Yeah.
So here we go. Boom. I've got middleware. All right.
I wanted some confetti on the screen. I wish we had it.
Yeah, it's beautiful. All right. Now, Drew, this is the first time I've launched middleware, so I'm going to need your help. You're going to need to walk me through what do I do? I've got middleware. I don't see any DORA dashboards. What's next?
Oh, let's hit the only button we see. Let's hit continue.
It's a good thing you're here, Drew. I don't know what I'd do otherwise. Continue. Yeah. Here we go. Continue. All right.
Yeah.
Okay.
So now we link. Yeah. So now we link our GitHub, and for that, if you just click on link, we'll put our personal access token, and there are some instructions on how to do it. There's also a little link which lets you open that on your GitHub itself. So if you click on that, generate new classic token.
Gotcha.
It would ask you to log in. Yep. And once you do this, I would really advise you to stop sharing a screen so that we don't take a note of your personal access token.
Yes.
One good thing that we have done after a couple of feedbacks as well, that on the side, if you go, you can scroll it down, and which tells you what exact permissions would you need if you're setting a fine-grained token. So that should help you. And once you put in a token, I know you're a smart man, so you'll generate a token which satisfies all of this.
I'm going to stop sharing for a second.
Perfect, and I'll keep talking. So once you paste the token, we do a little check as well, so that there are no confusions later on. If the token did not have all the permissions, or the token was expired, or if you pasted a wrong token by any chance, we check that the token is ready to use. And so once you have the token ready, you'll be able to paste it and get it going.
All right.
A couple of other things. Yeah,
I've done that. So if you want to bring my screen back, we can do that. So it looks like maybe it's linked well, huh? I see a green check. Wow. That's got to be good.
Yeah, green's always good.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah. So now that you have linked the GitHub, now we'll create a team, right? Because DORA is meant to be making a team get better at getting better. So let's start with creating a team. And we'll give it a good name, DORA Dev.
Yeah.
Now we'll add repositories.
Okay.
Yeah, we'll add repositories. The good thing about it is that you can add your private repositories as well. And you can also add any of the public repositories.
Oh, any public repositories. That's really nice. So the DORA.dev site we were looking at, of course, that code repository sits in GitHub. So I'll just create a team that looks after DORA.dev.
Oh, perfect. One great thing to note here is because to construct the 4 keys, we require your commits, your pull request, which you get from GitHub itself. You might be deploying it via GitHub Action workflow or some other workflow. So what we do is we also give an option of deployed via. So if you're starting up and you don't want to indulge in connecting all your CI/CDs with us, you can just select PR merge as deployment. But later on, if you decide to do otherwise, you can also select a workflow configuration, which will allow you to configure your deployment workflows from your CI. Yeah.
Oh,
so now we are all set.
Yeah, we'll stick with the simple one, the PR merge, just see how quickly we can get this done. So I'll just save that.
Perfect. Yeah, perfect. And now in the background, we are syncing on your local itself. So there's no data going out of your system. It's
Mhm.
just your local instance, which is the Google Cloud Workstation in this case, and the
Okay.
GitHub itself. So now let's continue to DORA.
All right. Oh, look at
Perfect.
that.
Whoop.
Wow.
That is insane. So now I see a number of DORA performance as 5 on 10 for DORA.dev itself. So
Uh-huh.
I'd let you give us and the viewers, a kind of walkthrough of what does that mean.
Yeah, for sure. So it looks like we have lead time for changes. Of course, that's one of those 4 key metrics, the throughput metrics, and it says 1 day and 7 hours. That's about typically how long it takes. What time frame is this looking at? Oh, I see. It's here from
So,
like the
yeah.
12th of April to the 10th of July. Is
So
that
so
customizable?
it's customizable. The default that we take usually is 30 days of sync. So why don't you do last 14 days so that we have an equivalent comparison window?
Ah, okay.
Perfect.
Oh, look,
Yeah,
we're
yeah,
even better now than we were over the last 90
yeah.
days. We must be improving. Yes.
Yes,
Awesome. Okay, so I can
absolutely.
see my lead time for changes, and it it looks like, oh yeah, it shows me that it's trending upward, so that's really good.
Mm,
My deployment frequency, I see about 2 deploys a week. Oh, but that one looks like it's trending downward.
mm,
Okay.
correct.
Dhruv, I don't see any change failure rates or time to recovery. So like, yeah, we run a great system, I guess. Nothing ever fails. That's not necessarily true.
Absolutely. Absolutely. In our open source version, what we do by default, and we'll soon add configurations, but right now what we do is we take your reverts, we take your hotfixes as the failures, because if you see the original document that is written by you on DORA.dev itself, so by default, anything that requires a revert or a hotfix is considered a failure, and that's what we take. So your Dora.dev is perfectly smoothly moving ship. So there are no reverts, and hence there are no failures. But
Mm.
maybe we can try more things where we can find out a revert, and then we can explore the stability metrics as well.
Right. Gotcha. So if I had revert commits, those would be counted as failures. Gotcha. I guess we have this practice in the Dora.dev team that we don't believe in rolling backwards. We believe rollbacks are a lie. So we never revert. We always just fail forward, fail forward, fail forward. Yeah. That keeps our
Yeah,
numbers really good here as
perfect.
well. Yeah. Yeah. That's good.
Perfect
Now,
strategy.
interesting, because you're just looking at PRs, right? So how do you know that a PR was deployed? How do you get this deployment frequency number? What does that come from?
Yeah, of course. So there are two configurations. One is that you can, to get started easily, you can count a PR merge as the one that gets deployed because you have a pipeline and you can assume that once it's deployed, then the rest of the process is taken care of. And that we count as deployment frequency. But of course, we know that the reality might be a little more sophisticated than that. So
Mm-hmm.
for that, we give you an option of selecting a workflow for your repositories. And whenever there is a deployment, so whenever there's a workflow run successfully, that we count as a deployment. And that's how we count the deployment frequency. Now, any time period that you choose, we bring out how many times you're deploying. Uh, let's say here you are doing 2 deployments per week. So it's great, perfect. And if you see 2 badges out there, 2 little badges out there, which is high, both of them are high for Dora.dev. So we also give a badge based on the last research, and
Mm.
which tells about which category or which tier your team is performing based on the
Gotcha.
last survey.
Okay, great, great. Oh, that's really cool. Oh, wow, look at this.
Yeah, yeah,
That's nice. That's nice. Yeah. Okay.
yeah,
So
yeah.
that the deployment frequency, just so I understand, the way that you're counting these today is once a change gets merged into the main branch, that counts as a deployment here because the access that you have is only to my PRs. As it turns out, the way that we run Dora.dev, our deployments kick off automatically once you've merged to main. So this works very well. DORA.dev, of course, is, it's mostly a static website. It's generated by Hugo, so there's not a whole lot of complexity to it, if you will.
Right.
So that this makes really good sense. And I like the opportunity where you have the workflow, so that if you have a more sophisticated or more complex deployment process, that you could capture that there as well. Now, maybe I'll look at these details and you can walk me through this really quickly. And then I would like to try, that it was easy for DORA.dev. I'd like to look at a couple of other repositories too and just make sure I've understood how to get this set up. But let's take a look here.
Oh, of course.
First. Yeah.
Of course. So what we have done here is that, see, once you look at a number, let's say lead time for change, what does that even mean, right? We ought to make it a little more actionable, because if I am at 2 days, what does that mean, right? Am I doing good, bad? Where is the need to improve it? So that is the gap that we saw. And so what we do is, once you click on any card, any 4-key card, we show you the trend of how it's been going. Then we also show you a breakdown of different stages. So by definition, lead time for changes is how long does it take a commit to reach the production, right? So what we do is we break down the stages in 5 parts. One is, how long does it take for you to open the PR from the first commit? Then how long does it take for a peer to give you a review after you have opened the PR? So now, typically, this time is a wait time, because you have made your changes, you are up for a review, and now you're just waiting for someone to give it to you, give a feedback to you. So this time is typically what we call this time spent in waiting. Then the next stage is rework time, where once you have gotten a response from someone, till the time you get an approval. So we typically wait for the first approval, because that's a green signal. Now, a key thing to note here is, like in this, your rework is very less, because someone would just be giving a small nitpick and a little change and it's done. But imagine for the teams who have it in days. That just means that the planning process needs some change, because the programmer and the reviewer do not have the same ideas, right? Because it's requiring days of work. Then we go to the 4th stage, which is the merge stage. Now, you have done the PR, you've gotten an approval. What are you waiting for? Why are you not merging it, right? So if there's my favorite book called The Goal. It talks about standing inventory. So it says that whenever you are running any operations, your inventory should keep flowing. So a high merge time is indicator of the inventory standing. There might be different processes, but we'll come back to that on how to improve this. And the last but not the least is that once your PR is merged, how soon do you deploy it? Now, in this example that we have set up right now as DORA.dev, we have chosen PR merge. So the deployment time is typically 0 because you trigger your deployment right after you're merging it. But once you add a workflow, we also show you how soon it takes it. Then go on, shoot a question.
No. Finish your thought.
Yeah, and then the last thing is that we show you a list of all the pull requests that created this metric, so that you can have the detail. You can also download it. You can configure columns and play around with that data if you will. And you can also look at each PR in detail. So if you just hover on the lead time, let's say for the first PR, alongside Dave's name, right? So you can look at each and every detail. So it's like you can keep chiseling it down to any level you want. But yeah, so I'm waiting for your question. Yes.
Yeah. I love how this kind of breaks down to show you those averages across all of those times. And if I were looking at this, these are great signals, and the action that I might take, this response time seems like it's the bottleneck of these 5, right? But then interestingly, if I look at a couple of these pull requests, this one that took 6 days, the response time looked like it was again the bottleneck. This one that took 5 days, it was actually the merge time that was the bottleneck. Now, it's a small enough repository, and I happen to be the one that wrote that PR, and I'm sure I'm the one that reviewed that PR. So I have all of the details in my head about how this works. And in fact, I know that this PR, update the survey page, I wrote that PR on like a Friday or a Thursday, but I intentionally didn't want it deployed until Monday. But I asked Dave to sign off on it in advance of that. And so you see a really nice response time, 4 hours. It's not so bad. No rework. It must have been just approved.
Yeah.
But then we intentionally held that. So I have all that context in my head. It doesn't show up here in these numbers, but we can see as a trend across the team, our response time on reviewing PRs is probably it's the constraint across this
Correct.
thing, which is
Yeah,
really
yeah.
cool. And I love that you can sort
Yeah.
of see on the PR by PR basis how those things are changing. And it might lead to really interesting questions. Like this one had 4 hours worth of rework. I would imagine that Dave wasn't working on it for 4 hours. Maybe I commented on it on a Friday night or something. Who knows?
Yeah, absolutely. I think you raised an important point, because you don't have to take like each element to the heart, to the point. It's the pattern that you see over time, because if you see the pattern in DORA.dev as well for the last 14 days, let's say,
Right.
you see the pattern of first response being the highest, right? Because one-off things will get normalized, and the major thing, which is a process excellence bit, basically the bit that will improve your processes, will appear on the top. So yeah, wonderful.
Right. Yeah, that's super good. All right, let's maybe we'll look at the details here of the deployment frequency.
Absolutely.
Yeah. All right. Well, we can select a deployment on the left. All right. Yeah. And that so this. Oh, okay. I see response, rework, and merge there as well showing up.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's giving us the lead time for that change again. Yeah.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct.
Great. So I can see all of those deploys that have gone through.
Yeah. So once you do a workflow with it, you'll also see a very interesting thing where you can see the deployment times and the deployment frequency correlations. And it's beautiful. So basically, you'll find that if you reduce your deployment time, your deployment frequency goes up, and so you can easily spot areas of improvement there.
Oh, that's super cool. All right, so this was really easy to set up. I'd like to set up another team. Can we do that, Drew? Let's
go
see.
for it.
So,
yes, go for it.
So I can add a new team. Yeah, let's take a look at. Oh, this is a good one. The microservice demo. This is a demo application that we build and maintain within Google Cloud. It's used in a number of different places. So let's see how that team is doing. I'm just going to call this one.
Wonderful. I'm excited. Yeah.
And then microservices demo. And this is whoops, that's maybe not the right name of it. Let's make sure I type the name right.
Maybe yeah.
Oh, maybe I should grab.
Maybe you can copy the from the organization.
That. Make sure I get the right one. Aha, there we go.
Perfect.
That worked really well. Let's save that. And while we're here, I might as well add another team. Python doc samples.
Yeah.
That's another good one, I think.
Perfect.
So let's grab that, and I'll jump back here. Add a new team. We'll call it Python docs. And I'll paste that in there. Let's see if it finds that repo. Sure enough, it does. We'll get them both on PR. We'll save that. And let's take a look at the. Oh, I misspelled demo. This is what happens when people watch you type. You have much higher frequency of typos, I think. But our change
it's all right.
Our failed deployment recovery time was pretty good, though, right? So, all right. So then we just go back here to
I was about to crack the same joke. Yeah. I'm just saying speed is the name of the game, and then you can manage your stability if your throughput is too high.
That's right. Okay, look. So this is pretty good here. Again, we're looking at, what are we looking at here? The last 14 days. So it seems to have kept that. So this is the which one am I on? The microservices demo. So they've got a lead time of a day, deployments 4 per week. That's pretty good. again, the response time, interestingly, seems to be one of the bottlenecks there. It's really interesting, you know, in the 2023 and the 2023 report, we found that teams with faster change review times have 50% better software delivery performance. And it looks like that change review time seems to be showing up here in these details as one of those constraints that a team might want to look at. And again, like maybe there's good reason for some of those, but maybe it's an opportunity to improve. Let's take a look at the Python docs here as well. Let's see how they're doing. All right, calculating. Ooh, it might take 5 minutes. Maybe this is a bigger repository, more changes. Let's see.
I mean, usually it will disappear once it's all synced in. And one interesting quote I read, I don't remember it verbatim, but on the DORA website, there's a quote which says that the real trade-off is over a long period of time, choosing between better software faster or worse software slower. So when it's somewhere around there, right?
Right here. I borrowed that quote from Dave Farley's book, Modern Software Engineering, which is another great book that I highly recommend. The real trade-off over long periods of times is between better software faster and worse software slower. Which would you prefer? I mean, the choice is kind of obvious when you state it like that, right? Okay. So it looks like Python docs has come through. Great lead time for changes, 2 days. Deployment, 2 deployments per day. Let's just take a look. Is review time still the bottle? Look at that. Review time is still a significant bottleneck here as well. Look at that response time of 20 hours.
I'll tell you one more thing, Nathan. If you see that trend, line on the top. You can also break it down. So if you click the toggle of show breakdown, just below that, so it will also show you how different. So if you hover with the colors, it will also show you how different stages become a bottleneck at different times. So when you're managing processes, when you're running a team, it's a journey, right? It's a transformational journey. And at one point, a first response might be a problem. At some other point, rework might be a problem. And, any of these 5 stages might be a problem for you. So it's very important to see how we are progressing on that. While the absolute number might look a little off, but it's always encouraging for the team to become better on that stage, what you're aiming to solve. So I just wanted to show you you see that different stages are having a different trajectory overall.
Right. Yeah. No, that's super cool. Drew, thanks for walking us through this. I think I'm going to save myself some money and shut down my workstation, but I want to clean up middleware first. And then I also see that it looks like we've got some questions in. So maybe as I'm just going to go and clean up some stuff here, maybe you could look through the chat and see what questions we have.
Right. Let me just look at the chat.
Yeah, great. I'm just going to stop that middleware container here.
Yeah, perfect.
And then I'll shut down my my workstation so it doesn't cost me too much money. All right, so that's shut down. Let's fully clean it up though. I think you recommend removing that container as well. We'll do that.
While you do that, I pulled up one question from Eric Chapman. So he asks, does this assume that the team in scope uses GitHub projects for ticket tracking? No, it doesn't. For our open source middleware, where we do DORA, we leverage only your pull requests and your deployments to show DORA metrics. We do not use your ticket tracking software. So you could have been using Jira, Linear, GitHub projects. It doesn't matter. It will still show you a prim and proper 4 keys for your project.
Awesome. All right. Well, I've cleaned up that. I'm going to stop my sharing. Dhruv, I have another question. I know that this is the open source version of middleware, and DORA metrics are certainly important metrics to look at, but they don't give you the whole picture, do they?
Well, that's a really good question. I mean, so while DORA metrics give a great picture for your delivery efficiency, there are certainly more duties that a leader has to do, right? And I often mention it to many people that engineering leaders are not there just to develop features to their team, right? So they are the way software engineers make softwares which work. Engineering leaders have a responsibility of making a system, a culture which creates better software, right? So now, in that, I look at it from a signal and actionability point of view. So while DORA is one of the signal frameworks, there are other signal frameworks as well, and I would like to hear from you as well for other frameworks. One of the other favorite frameworks that I have is the flow framework, which talks about how's your work flowing and how are, in a very layman language, how are ideas converting to products, where are the defects, what are the things that are stopping your flow. And so that is one of the signal frameworks that I really like apart from DORA. And
Yeah,
then,
I love the flow framework.
yeah,
Look, DORA is very much focused on software delivery and software operations. And of course, when we think about, well, what happens before the commit, right? If lead time starts with when that change is committed to the version control system, of course, there's a whole lot that happens before that. And it is important to take that into account. DORA, as a research program, necessarily has to pick a focus area. And so delivery and operations is really where we've focused over the years. But the flow framework goes all the way back, like you said, to that idea. And that's really nice. And it can give you a lot of additional insights because, of course, there's a lot to what we do. There's so much that we can measure. It does matter to measure the things that matter most. And oftentimes those are the bottlenecks. Software delivery is often a bottleneck, right? Writing code, we've got a lot of things ready to go out. It's just we're having trouble shipping them, getting them out the door so that we can start getting that feedback. So I do like the flow framework.
absolutely.
Does middleware itself, maybe the commercial option, does that include some of the flow framework?
Oh, yeah, of course. And if you allow me to add my screen, yeah,
Oh yeah,
I
there
think,
we go.
yeah. So what we do is, I think before I start talking more, what we aim to do, I'll just reiterate, is to get the builders back to building better and get the managers, the leaders, to take more strategic and technical decisions and not be stuck with the general management. So what we have done here is made this whole suite of offering, which lets our top leader uh, take care from ideation to delivery and give them what signals or what areas is their attention required today instead of them running over everything. So what we do as a glimpse on the main product, so we all saw the open source version. So we have something called a cockpit. So if I am a director of engineering of an organization, if I'm a CTO of an organization, I do not have time to get so much metrics and so much data, right? So what we have done is whatever your KPIs are, we track them for you. You can just configure and we tell you, okay, if your KPI is to improve your cycle time this quarter, how far all along are you? Then in any given scenario, in any given time frame, how have been your teams doing? Is your unplanned work rising, decreasing? Teams are going faster, slower? And then we talk about how's the flow going. So if you see, we are bringing the context from a top level view to a bottom to the down and increasing the detail. So here we talk about if your team is taking work, how is the work getting constructed? Is it a planned? Uh, are there more planned tasks? Are they coming as a spillage from the previous sprint? Are there more ad hoc tasks? Then we talk about how much of it is getting completed. So what is the kind of predictability your teams are having? So if your
Mm,
team is not able to complete what they commit to, then they're not being very productive, right? Because
right.
at the end, productivity is what we aim to do and are we able to complete it? And then over time, mentor our teams or get better at bringing more capacity, right? It's never counting the story points. It's commit versus done. So that's what we bring in here. And then very quickly, there are other metrics as well about quality. But what I'd like to see is where is my attention required? So once I see that, okay, the spillage is very high and there's one team which requires my attention badly, so I go inside that team Now I analyze that where's the flow being stopped? Is my team unable to deliver all we planned because of ad hoc? So are my ad hoc tickets rising over time? Or if my team's estimating, how does the estimation adherence look? So probably for shorter tasks, the complexity is lower and my team is able to ship in time. But as the complexity rises, my teams has been struggling in finding out, what's the right estimate is. And as a leader, I have to help my team. I have to support my team to find out where the gaps are, where the surprises are. And that's where middleware comes in really handy, where we intermingle DORA metrics to show you how the process pipeline looks like. So you see, DORA metrics, while it takes care of the delivery side, we coupled it up with a larger scope of things. So now you can spot how can you improve your DORA metrics, hence improving your delivery pipeline, right? So let's say you want to improve your lead time for changes. So what we do is, if your lead time for changes, let's say we spoke about, the 5 stages, we also let you see the cycle time, just for the process excellence. Now you see that the team is having a high first response time, as we saw for other repositories as well on our open source version. So now what could be the reasons? So one of the key reasons usually is that there's a senior developer or a couple of senior developers blocking the team. So I'll just zoom it in, and there are bottlenecks in my team. Sometimes the bottlenecks might also lie outside of my team because of recent reorgs or some people having the context across the code. Now, it's very important to not let these bottlenecks exist in our system because they block our pipeline. Now, what is the kind of blockage they do, right? So let's say if this person is a code or code review bottleneck, they might alone be adding a 3-day of delay, which means people dependent on them are waiting on them for 3 days. 3 days is half a week. So I have lost 50% productivity for my own folks. Right? And now you might leverage some of the patterns that are slowing these reviews down for this bottleneck. You can also spot some other reviewers, which we call code base experts, which we leverage from GitHub itself to find out who else can take their, who else can share some load with them so that I can reduce my cycle time, improve my DORA metrics, improve my adherence, reduce my spillage, and as an organization, I improve my KPIs. So you see how little changes can all roll up to impact the larger things. Yeah, we have all heard about that phrase that take care of the small things and the large things will fall in place.
That's right. That's right. This is really cool to see. I especially liked the distribution and the bottlenecks from a people perspective, because one of the things that we've investigated as part of our DORA research is the distribution of work. Are you distributing work evenly across your team and making not only maybe the toilsome work, make sure that gets evenly spread, but also the really rewarding work, make sure that everyone has ample opportunity to pick up and do that rewarding work that's going to be recognized. So I love how that really it helps you visualize, at least in the code review stage, right? How is that work actually being distributed? And you can find those bottlenecks that can lead to really great conversations so that, as you said, you can start making small changes that will have real impacts. That's super cool.
Yeah. Awesome. I was really intrigued and excited to see that we picked up 3 different repositories, and first response time was indeed the factor, dealing it out. And one more thing, Nathan, I think every time we chat, and this time it's on just a recording and live, it's always fascinating to, just touch upon a couple of these nuggets, right? So you mentioned that whenever there's work, you should spread the toil and also spread the good work. I think it also prevents context isolation, which I think the couple of signal frameworks that we spoke about, they necessarily don't capture anything that happens offline or in conversations. But a lot of times, just the assignment of work, if the context isolation exists, is bottlenecked, right? So even if
Yes.
you have a lot of backlog and a lot of people, but the backlog is consisting of one type of work, then you're bottlenecked anyway, right?
Yeah.
So I think it's best to distribute your code base experts. It's best to distribute the good work, efficiency, and all. It, like wealth is the better share, better spread when shared. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. It also reminds me of some of the knowledge sharing research that we've done as well. And those teams with better knowledge sharing, of course, have better outcomes. So it's really, really interesting. This has been really fascinating. Drew, thanks so much for walking me through middleware, helping me get it set up really quickly. That was super cool. And yeah, like you said, it's really interesting to see that that review time showing up as a pretty consistent bottleneck. And I would imagine that it might show up on your teams too.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much, Nathan, for taking out this time. It was a wonderful session, and I'm looking forward to more of these and seeing how we can improve productivity for more teams.
Yeah, awesome. And for everyone that's watched, please do head over to Dora.dev, join the Dora community there. You can find me there. You'll find Drew there in the community as well. You can reach out to us there or just get in touch with us through LinkedIn, Twitter, whatever you like.
Yeah, absolutely. And please check out Middleware's open source version. So we'll just pin the link here as well. I think someone has put it in the comment. So wonderful. So
Yeah.
please visit our repository. Do give us a star. Our team has worked day and night, and there's a lot of toil that we did. So we're looking forward to your feedback and looking forward to see you on Middleware and the DORA community. Take care.
Awesome. All right. Thanks,
Have
Drew.
a great day and night, whichever part of the world you are in.
Yes.
Bye, Nathan. Thank you.
Bye-bye. Talk to you soon.
Yeah.